Men who are abused by women, and tried to tell someone, what was it like? I donate a rental home, when vacant, for abused spouses and children seeking shelter. A social worker cares for them and everything. LEFO quietly moves them from place to place, usually in the middle of the night. Once or twice a year they'll bring a male spouse in and you can tell these guys are utterly humiliated and defeated. Take them seriously. Their situation is not funny or to be taken lightly. They matter. No one believed me, so I moved away. Just deleted all forms of social media. Got a new job right away before the Rona that pays great, and I just live by myself in a small cabin with good internet connection. I've never felt so stress-free in my life. Apparently she went berserk on FB, showing her true colors after I left, then everyone believed me. I never really spoke about the abuse I received. Mine mostly came in the form of gaslighting and being taken advantage of. The one time she gave me a black eye, people would ask what happened, I would say, my wife hit me. And they would laugh or make some kind of witty remark. I look back at it all now and I still somehow feel as my fault for being stupid and too eager to please instead of her being at fault. No one believes you at first. Still get highly aggressive PMs when I talk about it on Reddit. People insist I must have done something to deserve it. The worst part is they reverse the dynamic in their head and I've been made out to be a horrible abuser when I never lifted a finger. Meanwhile I was getting hit on a pretty consistent basis and the emotional manipulation was extreme. That's the last bit of control they have. Controlling the narrative. They have accused me of so many terrible things because that's the final avenue left to hurt me. That's what abuse looks like in the end. The abuser burns it all down and then tells everyone that they had no choice and to stay away from the only person who can dispute the facts. I was mostly emotionally, mentally abused by her, but she also hit me, threw stuff at me a few times. I used to keep quiet about it when I was in a relationship with her, out of some asinine obligated feeling of trust and privacy towards her, but when we broke up a few months ago it all just flooded out. Telling other people about the facts that had transpired back then really opened my eyes to how horribly she treated me for a big part of the relationship. Luckily I have an amazing group of friends, so they were all understanding. Especially because they had seen her nasty side on a few occasions. Telling my family was a lot harder. They all had this image in their head of her being this perfect girlfriend for me. To her credit, she was perfectly able to act like it when either of our families were around. No matter what happened to you, no matter how big or small it may seem, try your best to find somebody to talk about it. For me it helped me realize that she was abusive, that I do deserve better, and that I can do better. It's also just a relief in general to share your pains and burdens with people you love and trust. It's like it doesn't exist. Spent years suffering mental torture, getting arrested for things I hadn't done, had my self-esteem picked away at until there was nothing left. The police ignored me and on one occasion disregarded solid proof to arrest me on her word that I had assaulted her. Been told that charging my ex for domestic abuse was not in the public interest. Long story short, I had a mental breakdown, almost cut my throat, punched my father, went to jail and lost access to my son. My torture lasted for over 10 years and 4 of those were after I left. Men of Reddit, take my advice. It is better to spend your life alone than with someone who manipulates, attacks and slowly tears you apart piece by piece, because even though domestic abuse law is written for all, it is 100% against you. The police made me leave my own apartment for the night. They also told me I would go to jail too if she said I hit her, even with no evidence and it being an obvious lie. Edit. Because this blew up, and thank you very much for the support. I let an ex back in my life for 2 weeks, I live alone. I was 4 years sober at the time, 5 now, and didn't know she was an alcoholic. Within the first few days she's punching walls and fights me when she's drunk. I tried to ignore her altogether when she's drunk. Last day she disappeared for a few hours partying with people at the pool. Comes back with only underwear and a towel, and extremely drunk, saying I took her phone. She keeps threatening me with the poilche, so I call them myself and I am asked to leave or we both go to jail. I come back next day and stuff's broken and missing. Also she's connected to the sheriff's department through her mom, so she knew what she was doing. I got a restraining order and have since moved on with my life. Thank you for the support. I was 15, sexually abused by my manager at my first job, one of the biggest fast food joints, not once but 4 times. Someone spotted the abuse and reported it to corporate and she got a promotion. I quit and my father ignored it. Police said the company handled it. Men who are abused are ignored, because it's not supposed to be possible. Thank you everyone for all the super supportive comments and upvotes and hugs. I have to say, this is an amazing community. People are always on the side of those who tell the story. In my case there were many people who have been supportive, but there always been that "but" thing, where, especially women, are trying to put bit of a blame on me, saying it was my fault because I should behave this or that way to not provoke things. And it's not that I have done any harm to my ex, we weren't meant for each other's, but with all that shit she have done to me, there was loads of shit she accused me of to excuse her behavior. And some women bought that excuses easily. Manipulated by her, and thank God my friends and her friends believed me, they shunned her for it. Now that I'm no longer living where it happened, I don't talk about it. Instead I just listen to others who might be going through the same thing and believe them. It's always, just sit down and talk with them. Never works, and especially since it's the whole, mother being disciplinary, spiel, it's automatically invalidated. Gaslighting, emotional abuse, the works. I can't do anything about it. Life goes on. Not my story, but a very close friend. She was an excellent liar and manipulator. She is a 5'2" white girl. My buddy is a 6'4" 300+ pound black guy, important later. A lot happened over the 8 years he dealt with her, but the final straw was she backed him into a corner, repeatedly hitting him. She eventually grabbed kitchen knife and attacked him with that. He blocked the knife and pushed her away from him so he could get outside. At that point she told him she knew she could get him to put his hands on her eventually. She called the police claiming to be the victim. When the police arrived they arrested my friend even after he told the police he had recorded the entire fight with his phone. The police refused to watch the video because according to them, he was obviously guilty. Personally I believe race and the fact he is a man played into why they arrested him. I bailed him out of jail 13 hours later. 3 weeks later he went to the prosecutor, and when the prosecutor watched the video, they immediately dropped all charges. My buddy thankfully has a new house, full custody of his 3 kids, and is far away from that woman. I was told by the police that they wouldn't press charges because she said it didn't happen. I lost my virginity BC. A girl, who I had said no to, mounted up and rode me while I was passed out drunk. I woke up from what I thought was a wet dream finishing inside her with no protection. It messed with me pretty hard because I'd been trying to save my virginity for a serious girlfriend or someone other than just some girl I barely knew. Not to mention the fact that I had no idea if I was about to be an unwilling father. Thankfully that was not the case. My friends just kind of said, well, at least you got laid, right? I can't really blame them because it took a while, like, years, for me to even realize that what happened was clearly rape. Wrapping our college-age heads around the fact a guy could get raped was tough, I guess. I also got sexually harassed by a pair of women at a job in college, and telling people about it was met with attempts to high-five me. Thankfully these things happened years ago, and I do think men's voices in this regard are improving. I have a friend who always showed up at the pub with bruises on his arms because she gets feisty when they argue. I later realized he was being abused, but he took it because he thought it was because she loved him that much. If the genders had been reversed there wouldn't have been any doubt in my mind. But because he's a 6 feet plus guy, the first was sort of blind to it and laughed it off as a joke. I will always regret that. I was told to walk away from the relationship. I counted my losses, and left. I lived with her and was only able to pack about a quarter of my things, not even. I lost perhaps about $4,000 worth of stuff. From an electric bike, my Xbox, 2 6-feet shelves worth of DVDs and games, clothing. I had a buddy who was willing to let me sleep in his couch. I considered homelessness though. I also remember abandoning an Oz of pot there too. She obsessed over my income and I lost years worth of savings. If this is happening to you, ducking run. It may suck at first, but it is relief. I got a restraining order against my ex-GF after catching her on camera breaking into my apartment, destroying my place and stealing a bunch of stuff. My friends had told me for years how terrible she was. There were times when I knew she was absolutely being awful, but my feelings for her ran deep. The detective working my case was awesome. She was surprisingly supportive, telling me, "You don't deserve this, and we are going to make sure she doesn't get away with this." I told her I was going to court for a restraining order, and the detective went ahead and served her the order after she arrested her. Even told me how she took it all, giving me direct quotes and everything once the police had recovered some of my stuff. Got belittled, called a liar, a rapist, etc. I was 15 trying to speak out about a pedophile who groomed me, but, ducked me I guess. People were shocked but believed me. Some paid me out, but only because we are blokes and that's how we deal with things. Deep down everyone has supported me. Not me, but a friend of mine. He told me the story. I was in disbelief and I couldn't understand why he would let a girl destroy him like that. I talked to him every day after he left the girl. He was very angry at himself and turned everything inward. Took over 6 months till he started to feel like himself. The girl took his money and then went around destroyed his reputation in every network, painting him as almost a rapist. I knew the full story and had evidence to back it up, but all women didn't care about what proof we had. They would be on her side and would ignore facts and evidence.